of the oath of office, I would like to mention before we begin that Ms. Alad and Mr. Lowe both were sworn in earlier, which we were very excited. Which we were very excited that they could join us early. Mr. Lowe is not actually able to join us this evening. He had a personal emergency, so just know that while he will not be taking the oath of office this evening, he has already officially been sworn in. So with that, Ms. Crutcher, Mr. Tanky, and Mr. families are welcome to join you at the podium.
Place one, we have Mr. Gopal Nangi and his wonderful family here with us. Gopal, would you please read the statement of office?
I, Gopal Ponangi, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure any appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I, Gopal Ponangi, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Office of Board of Trustees, Frisco Independent School District of the state of Texas, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Congratulations, Gopal. Ms. Alad, and if your family would like to join you at the podium.
And for place three, we have Mrs. Stephanie.
Stephanie Alad, do solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. I, Stephanie Alad, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Office of Board of Trustees of Frisco Independent School District of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Congratulations, Stephanie. We will now move to item 4, recognitions. Dr. Cunningham.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to ask Dr. Chris Clark, our Managing Director of Academic Programs, to come to the mic and present our students.
I'm sorry. Siddharth Kumar, come on up. He earned a 6th place medal in number 6. Miriam Jallo earned a state championship, taking 1st place in feature writing. Computer science team who took 1st place, the state championship, is comprised of Dylan Smith, Pulkith Parachuri, and Shreyas Patabi. As well as Ricky Kotla. Sorry, Ricky, I left your name off. Let's see, and then in addition to winning 1st place as a team, Pulkith placed 4th place. He is not here tonight, and he placed 4th place in computer science. And then Dylan Smith, who is on the stage, took 1st place, making him the state champion individual. Let's recognize the coaches of these students. First of all, we have Holly Balda. She is the coach for number 6. Our computer science coaches are Clayton Patterson, who's in the audience. And then not here tonight, also coaching computer science is Ryan Jarrell, sorry. And then our feature writing coach is Aaron Kazentz, who is also out of town this evening as well. And last but not least, if we have parents of these fine students, would you please stand so we can recognize you as well? Thank you and congratulations, students. You may have a seat.
Thank you and congratulations to the kids, coaches, and parents. We'll now move on to item 2 under recognition, state track and baseball athletes. Mr. McClendon.
Yes, thank you. We have wrapped up another successful year of athletics in Frisco ISD, so we have a couple of spring sports that we're going to honor tonight. And first, we're going to start with track, and so I'm going to have Coach Shjc Parker from Lebanon Trail to come forward. I'm going to have Coach Sean Coffey is going to come next. And then Coach Chip Gregory will be after that. We have some outstanding track athletes who are going to be honored. Let's start with Coach Parker first, please.
Good evening. My name is Shjc Parker. I'm the head volleyball coach at Lebanon Trail. I I'm here on behalf of Ashley House, who couldn't make it. She's our head track coach. But it is because I've had the privilege of coaching Layla since she was in 6th grade that I get to be here today. And she's about to be a senior. So, you know, I'm about to read off her accomplishments, and I just want to say that the reason I'm able to read all of these off is because even in middle school, I got to see her leave our practices to go to her other practices, and she's just that dedicated. So Layla Hackett was a junior this year at Lebanon Trail. She attended Texas Relays for the first time and medaled with a 3rd place finish in the 100-meter dash, where she broke her record twice in 24 hours, bringing her time to 11.62. Becoming the District 9 5A champion in both the 100 and 200 meter. She also was the district area meet and champion in both the 100 and 200. She qualified for state at the regional tournament, or at the regional meet in both the 100 and the 200 by finishing 2nd in both events. At the same meet, sorry, it's going to be real long for her. At the same meet, she broke her personal record in the 200-meter dash with a time of 23.86. So at the 5A state meet, she fought hard and medaled with a 2nd place finish in the 100-meter dash with a personal record of 11.55. She also placed 4th in the state meet in the 200-meter dash. Hackett now holds the school records in the 100-meter dash, the 200-meter dash, the 4x1 relay, the 4x2 relay, and the long jump. We are eager to watch her as she continues to build her legacy at LT, moving into her senior year.
Lone Star High School.
Good evening, I'm Sean Coffey, head girls track coach at Lone Star High School. I have the pleasure tonight to talk about Hannah Ford, who was a sophomore at Lone Star High School. She will be continuing her education and athletic career at Panther Creek High School, where we are very much going to be missing her athletic as well as academic achievements, and her father and I get along amazingly. Love you, goodness. Hannah came as a freshman, didn't know what she was getting into, and fertilized the lawn on the first day of practice as a freshman. I was like, what are we doing? But we knew we had something, and she qualified as state as a freshman, and I was like, uh-oh, this one's going to do something special. This year, she broke school record in long jump, going 19 feet 6.5 inches. Top 10 jump in the state, no matter what A you are. She qualified, then she was on the 4x2, which then set the school record, breaking Lone Star's state champion school record in the 4x2 of 141.19. She broke her triple jump record 3 times this year, and she jumped 41 feet 8 inches at state on 3 consecutive jumps. She finished with the silver medal at the state meet, and her dad and I standing there were like, she's about to be upset. That's how competitive she is, but she actually came off smiling. She was like, the girl who beat me, she earned it. And we were like, okay, good, whew, we're gonna have a fun ride home. No, Hannah, you have been nothing but a stellar student, athlete for your 2 years at Lone Star. I know Panther Creek's getting somebody special, and I know you're gonna do amazing things, and it's gonna be fun being able to be just another fan in the stands at the state meets the next 2 years. Congratulations.
And introduce our last track athlete, state qualifier, Coach Gregory from Liberty High School.
first off, I want to thank the school board for having us today, especially, honoring these athletes. It's a special moment for them, especially in their career. It's not every day you get to do this. Here we have Chris Johnson, Liberty High School. My name is Chip Gregory, by the way, former head boys track coach. We competed in 9-5A just like the others. Chris Johnson, it's kind of a crazy story. All right, especially once I go back and tell you all his accomplishments and everything and where he came from there. But Chris Johnson started out with our district meet, finished third. Then he went on to area, in which he finished second, and went on to regionals where he finished second again. And the craziest thing about all that, he was competing against the same athletes every single time. All right, so I want you to listen to this, okay? All right, listen now. All right, so we go into the UIL state meet. All right, obviously when you go and before the meet, you look at all the rankings. You kind of see where you fit. Right. I think going into it, he maybe was fitting like 6th place, something like that. Whenever it came time, he's always been a guy that's always kept a calm head, cool head, and he was like, "Hey, I got this." All right. One of my biggest things is I always want you to have fun with what you're doing. All right, that's probably one of the biggest things. You got to have fun with what you're doing. You have to love it. All right, and I'm the type of one of those coaches. I'm a little bit unhooked and love it. I love sports, I'm passionate about it. All right, but going into it, I think his second jump, he ended up jumping 23.8, which was a PR for him. 23 feet 8 inches was a PR for him. And then he went back his third jump and jumped 23 foot 10 and a half, which is another PR for him. All right, and which I told him probably, I want to say maybe back in November, I said, hey, you're gonna have to jump 24 feet and 4 inches in order to be able to win state this year. All right. Thankfully, he didn't have to do that. All right, but going into his last jump, his 6th jump, he already had won it. It was done, and I said, hey, young man, I want you to have fun with this. Go get after it. So anytime somebody gets a chance where they can relax a little bit, knowing, hey, things are kind of in the book, my man went out there and jumped 24 feet, 4 inches. That definitely praises to who he is, very coachable, and definitely gonna miss him. So, as far as the things that Chris Johnson has done since he's been here, last year he got the chance to be a state champion on the 4x2 100-meter relay, and state champion on the 4x400-meter relay, and also brought Frisco ISD their first ever boys track and field state championship. Along with that, Chris Johnson will be attending Southeastern Missouri, and where he's hoping to become a teacher and a coach. Chris Johnson.
If you're a parent of any of these track kiddos, would you please stand so we can recognize you as well? Any track kiddos. Transitioning to our next outstanding group of athletes, our Wakeland Wolverine baseball team state semifinalists are here with us. So I'm going to ask Coach Sarter and Coach Preston to come forward with their team and say a few words about this wonderful baseball team.
You guys are looking sharp tonight. First of all, I want to start off by saying thank you to the board for having us here tonight. It's an honor for us to get to be here and be recognized. I'd also like to thank everybody in the athletic department. As you get further and further into the playoffs, you really realize how much you need them, and they did an outstanding job for us. Getting us set up with meal money and things like that. It was incredible to have the support by them. Best principal in the district, Dr. Edge. Thank you for all of your support. Along with the rest of the administration at Wakeland. I'd also like to say thank you to Coach Secord and Coach Womble, our coordinators at Wakeland. I'd like to thank our training staff, TW and Coach Langford. I would also like to thank the baseball parents for all that you guys do. It is incredible to see the support that these kids get from the families within the Wakeland attendance zone, and they do an amazing job. Our team moms, Julie Sneed and Michelle Casano, thank you guys for everything. Without the parents, the moms and the parents, they definitely keep us fed throughout the year. So as a coach, it's very good for me. I would definitely like to thank the best coaching staff around, Coach Preston and Coach Storm. I'll continue to say it that we have the best coaches around, and I think in particular, our staff is probably better than everyone else's. That's just me talking now. Well, to the boys, by-district champions, area champions, regional quarterfinal champions, regional semifinal champions, regional finals champions, and then state semifinalists, Final Four. Heck of a season. Baseball, for those that don't know, baseball, I believe baseball is the hardest game to win a title in, because there are 9 individuals playing a team sport, and there are so many different nuances that go into the game, which make it so difficult to win. That's why in the big leagues they play 162 games, because at any point, at any time, somebody's going to beat somebody else. It was an incredible year for us. There was one point we were sitting in the coach's office and we looked at our record and we saw we were 12-12. And as a coaching staff, we didn't know if we were going to make the playoffs. And we told our boys at that time, hey, this is what you have to do if you want to make it into the dance. We woke up the Friday morning, the last week of district, and we still didn't know what was going to happen. But we continued to tell our kids, once you get to the dance, anything can happen. It's not necessarily the best team that wins. It is the team that plays the best. And that is what this group of young men did. They rose to the occasion. Never out of the fight, okay? Never backed away from anybody. It was really impressive to see. I've never been a part of a team that had so many different people step up in so many different big moments. It was really impressive to watch. I had a lot of coaches reach out to me, people that you guys beat. They reached out and they said, man, it was really incredible to watch you guys play. They went back and they followed us after we beat them. They said, you guys play with class. You guys play the right way. I was really impressed with your kids. And that's something that stuck with me. That's something I've told our coaches. And that goes a long way. The way that you play the game, it goes a long way and it carries on. But those people, they followed us throughout the season and it was nothing but, wow, you guys, it's somebody different again. Somebody else has stepped up. And it was really something to see. This group of young men, they played for each other. As a coaching staff, that's what we want. We want kids that are going to play for each other and pick each other up. And these guys did that. It was really something to see. There was no individual seeking recognition. It was only the team. And in my eyes, that is the reason why we're standing right here, and that's the reason why you guys have medals around your necks. Because you took the selfishness out of it, and you played for something more. You played for the people next to you. And that's what it really takes to win championships. There's a lot of people in this world that could learn some serious life lessons if they stepped on the baseball diamond. I am extremely proud of you guys. I love you, and I am blessed to have been your coach this year. Good job, guys.
We will now move on to item 5, discussion regarding progress in education.
Thank you. Tonight we recognize the Frisco ISD Council of PTAs as this month's Frisco ISD Partner in Education. Even with part of the school year being a hybrid of virtual and in-person, membership was up, programs that partnered with the district were well attended and well received, and community events happened again. Local PTAs were able to host traditional events and programs on their campuses, and many started new traditions and events that better suited their communities. Local PTAs and councils awarded over 110 scholarships through the Frisco Education Foundation to deserving seniors, and the council was able to open and successfully manage a clothes closet for the economically disadvantaged students in our district, which if you have not seen that, please go look at it, it's incredible. Tonight, I would like to welcome Terry Palmer and the rest of her cast. If you guys want to come. And at this time, I would like to ask Dr. Waldrop and President Archambault to come on down for a quick photo opportunity. Ms. Palmer and her council will also be giving this year's annual update this evening. But before they come down, thank you for all you do. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Waldrop, and the ISD. Thank you for allowing me to speak about our Council of PTAs this evening. My name is Terry Palmer, and I am the President of the Frisco ISD Council of PTAs. The Council oversees the PTA activity throughout the district and acts as a resource for our PTA leaders and members. We also serve as a liaison between the district and the local PTAs. This school year still presented challenges from the COVID pandemic, but our local PTAs and councils stepped up and creatively managed the school year. We started with the year with some back-to-school training and jumped right into the National PTA Reflections Program. This program was supported by many of our local PTAs with 265 local entries. Frisco ISD had 25 entries advanced to the state level, with 21 of them receiving honors and 1 advancing to national. Frisco is so proud of our National Award of Excellence for Film Production, Miss Allison Rose from Heritage High School. This year we also partnered with the Guidance and Counseling Department to provide programs for the district like Dare to Self-Care. These programs were well received and well attended, and we're looking forward to even more next year. Council was also able to host our Community Family Fair in April at Wakeland High School. We estimated that we had over 900 attendees visit with our 100 vendors. We also had a scavenger hunt in February on a school holiday as a fun activity, and hosted our annual PTA night at the Rough Riders game to honor the Teacher of the Year award winners for the previous school years, thanks to COVID canceling the events in the previous years. Membership was a gold star this year. Even though we didn't reach our goal of 30,000 members, we had significant increases over the previous year, with 22,905 members across the district. And 59 of the 68 schools saw local increases. Our membership district initiative, which is a way for the community members to join multiple local PTAs, saw a dramatic increase with over 1,514 members through that platform alone. And we love teachers and staff support, with 33 of our schools achieving 100% membership of their staff to earn the Golden Apple Award from Texas PTA. Many of our schools won membership awards through Texas PTA, but we're particularly proud of the awards on the screen as they are the highest membership achievements. Cobb Middle School and Robertson Elementary achieved Platinum Voice for Every Child, which is awarded when you have PTA membership equaling or exceeding the number of students enrolled on that campus. It's an amazing achievement. The next slide highlights the membership district initiative members that I referenced earlier. Thank you to so many of you in the room who have joined multiple PTAs. Your support of the PTA is noticed and greatly appreciated by myself and the local campuses. Our lifetime membership ceremony is one of my favorite events because it is so inspiring to get to honor these men and women who give back to the kids and communities tirelessly. Council was able to celebrate 94 honorees at our event in early May. These honorees have gone above and beyond to support our campuses and students, and we were so excited to get to recognize them. Council is also excited to share another honor for one of our amazing teachers in our district. Miss Laura Baker from Staley Middle School is being honored as the 2022 Secondary Teacher of the Year from Texas PTA. She will be honored during the Texas PTA Launch Conference at the end of July. And one of our biggest accomplishments from this year was launching our student clothes closet called Frisco Threads. This endeavor was a few years in the making, and with the support of the district, Council is so happy to make this dream of supporting financially disadvantaged students with clothing a reality. The clothes closet provides tops, bottoms, sweatshirts, coats, underwear, bras, socks, and shoes to each shopper. We opened in August and we served 258 families this school year. We were able to provide almost 14,000 items to 541 students. We love being able to help these students feel more confident and comfortable as they attend school, but we definitely could not have done it without the support of the district and the community. There's been great participation with donations of both clothing and financial support. On top of that, we had 169 volunteers donate over 1,400 hours to help Council run Threads, and we hope to be just as successful and more so in the coming years. Finally, a few more statistics about our Council. We currently have 68 local PTAs, and I'm happy to announce that we'll be adding 2 more, Manette Elementary and Panther Creek High School, in the coming weeks, and that will give us 70 PTA or PTSAs next year. We have 25 council board members that I could not do all of this work without, and over 1,500 local board leaders. And last but not least, we are celebrating over 20 years of service, advocacy, and making every child's potential a reality. We are looking forward to the start of the next school year and seeing all that the local PTAs and council can accomplish. COVID brought many changes, but it didn't change the dedication to each school by their PTA. They pivoted, they planned, and they were so creative in accomplishing any support that they could offer to the amazing staffs who were serving our students. We are ready and excited to see what can be accomplished in the 2022-2023. We know that council and local PTAs are ready and willing to support your work. So please do not hesitate to call on the PTA whenever you need help. Thank you again for allowing me to brag a little bit about our 68 PTAs and council.
Thank you so much. We know how integral PTAs are to the success of our district. Every parent that has been a volunteer, that donates their time or their money, we know it is imperative for this district to function the level in which we do, that PTA is a huge part of that success. So can we all please give PTA another big round of applause? We will now move on to item 6, invocation. Ms. Alon.
Thank you. Rabbi Kesselman from the Chabad of Frisco, who also happens to be my rabbi, gave the invocation at the Frisco City Council meeting last month, and his words seemed applicable for tonight. So I asked him for his permission to share his words, and he graciously agreed. I've adapted it slightly from City Council to school board. In a school board meeting, not everyone agrees on everything, and sometimes there might be a difference of opinion. heaven. So I want to share with you a teaching from the Mishnah written by the Jewish sages 2,000 years ago. Any dispute that is for the sake of heaven is destined to endure. One that is not for the sake of heaven is not destined to endure. When we agree, disagree, and argue, but it is for the sake of heaven, it is an argument about how to make our portion of the world a better, safer, and more godly place. This is an argument that will lead to results. If, however, we argue to protect our ego or disagree to further our own personal ambitions, this is an argument which will not bring us to resolutions and results. Master of the universe, we pray that you give wisdom and understanding to our district leaders, fill them with humility that the meetings and decisions will yield results that benefit all Frisco citizens. Master of the world, please keep all of Frisco safe and healthy. Let there be friendship and love between our people. May Frisco be a shining example of people working toward a goal that is greater than themselves. I will conclude with a well-known short Hebrew prayer. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. In English, that means, he who makes peace on high, may he bring peace upon all of us and upon all of Israel, and let us say amen.
Thank you very much. Item 7, board report, Ms. Gillespie.
Well, I'm sure others have other things to say, but I will lead off. One of the first things I wanted to talk about was graduations. We had 10 graduations that went off. I think they went off smoothly. I don't know, maybe behind the scenes, but I think they were great. So we just want to again thank all of the staff. Well, first, actually, all of the students and the families and the teachers that got the kids there, but all the staff that put on some fabulous ceremonies, and of course, all the police officers and first responders that were there to help get traffic in and out very smoothly. I think they were all great. Next, I will say that we've had quite a few retirement receptions over the last month or so, and one of them was Mr. Kenny Chandler. So we just want to say once again, happy retirement. You're going to be sorely missed, but I know you're going to be doing some great things and having some fun, and we know you're not going far. So. Then the other thing is last week, Frisco Education Foundation put on their annual Mindbender Academy. This was the 14th year, I believe, that Mindbender has taken place. It's a STEM academy for 7th and 8th graders, which we have tons of corporate volunteers that come in and do some great things. This year we had Toyota, and we had PGA, we had Baylor Health that actually brought some hearts, so the students got to actually see some real hearts and look at like an enlarged heart, a healthy heart, a diseased heart, that sort of thing. One of the other things that we added this year was a 4th and 5th grade small academy for young entrepreneurship. And so we got to go and watch the last day when they had to do their sales pitch, and it was about lemonade. And the 4th and 5th graders were actually phenomenal. It was really fun to watch them be so excited and learn so many great things too. Next thing, I told you I had a long list. June 1st, I just want to remind everybody that we had a great special meeting on safety and our safety plan. So if you did not get to be here or watch that, it is online, so you may go back and watch that, along with the budget meeting. And Ms. Smith has put on a cute little video about about finance and funding. It's actually very helpful if you don't understand school finance. It's a quick video, but it's out there online that you can go watch. And then the last thing I just want to mention is a few of us will be going to our Summer Leadership Institute this week. It's a great time for trustees to come together and get our required training and hear some great speakers and get a little bit re-energized. That's our time in the summer to kind of come together and refocus on what we're all here for. So that's all I have.
Or anything else? And that's the first time anyone's ever said cute in school finance in the same sentence. Cute little video. It is cute though. You did a great job. Yeah, I like it. Or anything else? Now we'll move to item 8, discussion regarding update on internal audit department activity. Mr. Groover.
All right, good evening. I'm going to give you an update on internal audit activity for the last quarter of this fiscal year. And starting off as we usually do with our audit plan status report, which shows how we're progressing through the current plan. We finalized an audit of pre-kindergarten. You received that report during the quarter, and you also have that in your materials this evening. We have 2 audits that are in progress right now, capital controlled assets, and also eSchool, which is our student system. And those are, hopefully we'll get those completed in the next couple of weeks, so we can roll into our new audit plan for this year 23. Our recommendation tracking, this shows how the implementation percentages are working on items that we recommended in management's implementation progress. So fiscal year 19, we're down to 98% implemented, so moving right along there. Fiscal year 20, we have 88%, and 21, we are at 73%. And I did put a little caveat in there because fiscal year 21 does include some recommendations that are not yet due. But still, looking at those percentages, we're definitely moving in the right direction, moving the needle on the implementation. This slide just shows a little more detail about which recommendations apply to which audits. So you can kind of go through there and see which ones are kind of still hanging out there. Lighthouse activity, we had, this is a year to date, 33 incident reports that came in, 7 of them were substantiated, 21 unsubstantiated, and 5 are currently under review. I do have some bonus material tonight, which is required by our CFC local and also by standards. Standard 1110 requires that I confirm with the board annually the organizational independence of the internal audit activity. And the way we get there is that we are free from interference from determining scopes of internal auditing, performing work, and communicating results. You have a letter in your materials tonight for me attesting that. So for this year, there was no interference in terms of scopes, performing work, or communicating results. And that concludes my update.
Thank you. Board, any questions?
No question. Mr. Gruber, I just wanted to thank you for your time with the committee this fiscal year and you and your department's flexibility in prioritizing the audits for the coming year too. So thank you guys. It's been good information, I think, for the whole world here.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to item 9, discussion regarding Frisco ISD use of ESSER funds. Mrs. Smith.
Good evening. This is going to be a fairly short report, but I just want to show you and the community where some updated information is on our website. We are required as part of our acceptance of ESSER money to maintain on our public-facing website our spending plans for both the ESSER 3 grant and the supplemental ESSER grant, as well as a report that's called the Continuity of Operations Plan. So we update those every 6 months for as long as we have ESSER funding available to us. And so this is kind of your 6-month update. I'm not going to go through it in detail. I'm just going to show you where it is and show our community how they can provide feedback if they have any. So if you go to our Frisco ISD website, there's 2 ways you can get here. The first way is that you can click on the financial transparency button on the front page. The second way is that you can go to the search bar and you can type COVID into the search bar and it will pop up with a link to these plans. So we have 2 ESSER grants that we are maintaining right now. The first one is ESSER 3, that's the smaller of the 2. What we've done, if you remember this from the last time I presented, we really just had an approximate 3-year cost for each of our identified needs and then the exit strategy. What we've done is we've updated expenditures through May 31st, 2022 for each of those needs that we identified. And then we've also updated some of the budgets just based on, our continuation of implementing those solutions. So that is out here for the ESSER 3 plan. The same type of report is out here for our supplemental ESSER plan. Remember, supplemental ESSER is the one that we plan to use next year to help fill in the gap for our proposed budget deficit. So you'll see the majority of that money popping up right here under staff and other support needed to ensure continuity of services. So that's what that's for. If anyone reads through this and has comments, questions, there is a link at the bottom of both of those pages to contact our Grants and Compliance Department to provide that feedback. The other thing that I will point out is this link over here on the left shows the Safe Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Services Plan. This has not been updated as of tonight because school is not currently in session and there's no updates to make. We are hoping to get some updated guidance from TEA over the summer before we start the next school year, just regarding isolation requirements if somebody tests positive, that kind of thing. As soon as we get that guidance and as soon as we make those changes, if there are any, we will update this and I will let you know at a public board meeting, probably the August board meeting, that it's been updated. The last thing that I want to mention about our COVID recovery and spending is that the paid COVID leave for staff, which is part of our ESSER spending plan, does expire at the end of June. You guys adopted that resolution for staff that had to be out due to COVID. So that resolution expires. If for some reason, based on guidance that we get for next school year, we feel the need to bring that back and use ESSER funds to continue that, we'll bring that resolution to you at a later date. Any questions?
I have a question. Yeah. When do these ESSER funds expire, or when do they run out?
They, I shouldn't have closed that website so quickly. They expire on various dates, but those are listed on the website. So let me just pull it up so that I don't say wrong. So ESSER 3 goes through September 30th of 2024, and the supplemental ESSER plan goes through August 31st of 2023. And so these spending plans will carry us up to that point, and we will continue to update this website at least every 6 months, as well as that continuity of services plan if it needs to be updated. Any other questions? Board, any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. Move on to item 10, discussion regarding one-level ILA. Dr. Cunningham.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. Back in the fall, this was requested. I provide the board an update for how the middle school ILA pilot program has gone up to this point. So we're here to provide an update, a few data points and some lessons learned, along with how we'll continue to support our students and teachers. This presentation will mirror the other strategic change initiative presentations that you've seen and will continue to see in the future. So there'll be a couple of similarities between us and some other presentations. So we start with the purpose and identified need. We believe that all students deserve an appropriately rigorous educational experience. And the structure, we believe, allows for a supportive environment to provide differentiated learning experiences to our students. You'll see some information about the root cause analysis that we did, but I want to make sure that we're clear on a few things. This is not an attempt to do away with advanced classes. And in fact, it actually maintains the advanced curriculum framework and increases exposure of that framework to students. We are not proposing a decrease of other advanced courses, particularly AP courses or anything like that. I've heard some ones out there, I'm not sure if those are best. We believe that this is a structure that teaches all students at a higher level and scaffolds supports for all students. We've had a number of anecdotal information and stories about students who were selected an on-level course and were enrolled in this pilot course at their campus, and were excited that they were able to do some of the same work that their colleagues in advanced level classes in previous years were able to do. So we've got lots of different success stories for that. We're piloting this because we saw a possible solution to raise a level for all students, while being certain that non-pilot classes that are all receiving our Frisco ISD level instruction. So we are aligning all of our initiatives to our priorities, and board, you've seen the CBS structure, the key questions, the future ready framework. This particular initiative aligns to at least I'm going to try to give you a snippet of three priority areas along with answering three questions. To what degree do we create a safe, inclusive, adaptable, and engaging learning environment? To what degree do we tailor instruction to meet individual learners' academic, behavioral, and emotional needs? And to what degree do we ensure equitable access for all learners? We believe this meets our priority and is in line with every other opportunity we're trying to do to meet the need of our students. Get an example there on this slide of some of the different objectives and a timeline through this school year, some of the different approaches we took this year to support our staff, our students, our community in this endeavor. You can see a couple of different opportunities that I'll be talking about in more detail here momentarily. This is just a high-level summary. We did a great deal more work and number of walkthroughs that we did in classrooms, the number of meetings that our staff, I've got some of our staff members here tonight, and they get all the credit for supporting our teachers and staff for being in PLCs and being in team meetings and providing support when needed and asked for our teachers and for our students. One of the things we look at is what represents success in an initiative like this. And we looked at a variety of different pieces that we would consider as success: student achievement data, student, parent, and teacher survey data, formal and informal feedback, walkthrough data, observation data. We were looking at advanced course enrollment in future years. So I told you a minute ago, we get some students who might not have tried an on-level course, and they were in this POT program, and then, hey, I can do this. And so they signed up for an advanced level course at high school. That's something we're going to share with you in a minute. We also saw some increase in efficiency in staffing, scheduling, and training for our staff. So if you'll remember, you've seen some of this data before in terms of kind of background and context. We actually have been, this is not a brand new idea. In fact, we do our social studies class at the middle school level just like this. They're all in a class and we teach them at a high level. But we had an opportunity when the College Board branded the pre-AP framework a few years ago, and we saw an opportunity. We had to change the name of the course, or we were going to need to purchase some additional materials from the College Board. So we started to have this discussion about advanced on level. The middle school level, remember we have three different levels of ILA, generally speaking, GT, advanced and on level. And so you can see we started to work through, in response, frankly, to campuses reaching out, campus leaders and staff saying, hey, can we try this this idea about maybe mixing students who chose on level and students who chose advanced. And so started to work on what a professional learning plan might look like, what a support plan might look like, and ended up with campuses. It's important to remember that we didn't force any campuses to select this. The campuses went on with this, and they went through a screening procedure, and they had to agree to some support for their staff in choosing this. One might ask the next couple of slides is, what does this look like in a classroom? What are we looking for when we walk in? I mentioned to go walkthroughs and observation data. And I'm not going to read this whole slide to you. There's a lot of words. This violates every PowerPoint strategy on demand. But I just wanted to share with you, like, what are the students supposed to be doing? These are the kinds of the things that we train our folks on. And again, this is not rocket science. This is our teachers are aware of this. This is stuff that our teachers have been studying for years. But what type of things might they be doing in these classes? And we've got a couple of slides. I don't have time to show you a video board. You'll have access to the video through the background materials. But this is a slide deck that Christian Middle School, 7th grade students working on in small groups in a variety of tasks. We've got a video again, I'm not going to run you through that, but this is an example of students at a teacher table working with small group instruction. This could be students that are in need of some enrichment, some students that are in need of some remediation, students that are just having a check-in with their teacher. And so during the small group instruction, our students are working with the teacher on specific skills based on their needs. What are other students doing, you ask? Well, you said that. Here's one of the things that they're doing while the teachers are working with a small group of students. You might have individual learning stations, independent applications, small group collaboratives. Lots of things could be occurring based on student voice and choice and aligned to the standards. So to remind you, we did have 8 campuses that worked with us this last year. It was an increase of a couple of campuses from the first pilot year. Joked a little bit, we probably picked a bad year to start the pilot with COVID pandemic and doing some virtual and face-to-face instruction, but this is the group that's been with us this last year. And give you an idea of what support looks like. Again, I give credit to the teaching and learning staff for listening, responding to the needs of our teachers, feedback from administrators, feedback from the community, what kind of things should we be doing. I would let you know that in the summer, we've got some things in the summer 22 that we're going to do. I know we're there right now, but we're working on a new teacher summit, returning teacher institute, some training on depth complexity, and then you'll see already we've added a few things that we want to try to do more of this next school year based on the feedback we've gotten just in the past month or so. And so when I say feedback, I'm going to share with you kind of two chunks of feedback. We did some survey data, and we did teacher, student, parent survey data, and we got a couple of themes. Board, I'll share with you the actual report in home base. You can see the ideas. I'm not going to read every response to you. We had over 3,000 students respond, about 250 parents, and about 50 teachers respond to us. And so we got some feedback on student success, feedback on learning environment, communication, teacher efficacy, instructional practices and support, and what we need to do to continue teacher support. And so a few trends was the students reported that they improved as a reader through this pilot program. Students and parents said their classroom was a positive place to learn. It's a little bit more indicative of what students say, but still I can tell you that's a trend that we saw with parents as well. We do have an opportunity to improve our communication about expectations and purpose. That's my way of telling you we got some good feedback on that. Teachers felt like they had the skills to meet the academic needs of students, and teachers were intentional in adjusting structure of the classrooms to meet the needs of the students. We also learned that we got some opportunities to provide additional support to our students in differentiation. So we learned a lot of things that we felt positive and seeing some things that we had some opportunities. In terms of performance and system data, we're going to share some student achievement data with you. And I mentioned a minute ago high school advanced course selection. I'll share that with you. The student achievement data is, I'm sharing with you now, is STAR data. This mirrors our internal assessment data and mirrors some data that we received last year that we did. And so after controlling for prior achievement, Dr. Nye is really smart and talks about how they do statistical analysis, and one of the things that they look for is controlling for prior achievement school selection. Learned that students in ILA pilot performed at 4.5 scale score points more than non-pilot students, and that is a statistically significant difference. Share with you on this, and this is an interesting chart, so let me explain this to you. In the blue are students who were in the pilot program. The yellow are students who were not in the pilot program. This is separated by their initial course selection. So these are students in the pilot program who selected advanced, and students in the pilot program who selected on level when they first did their course selection cards. And you'll see the difference here. And what you've seen is that the students in the pilot program had some academic growth. This is basically just STAR scores. This also mirrors our internal data, but this is pilot versus non-pilot. It's separated by their initial course selection. Kind of along that same line, and I mentioned this before, the first year of the pilot, we were able to get completion data this year, and same thing, blue is the students in the pilot, and the yellow is students in non-pilot, and this is based on what they end up selecting in their courses in middle school. Well, we've seen a significant increase in students who had selected on level in the pilot program that went to high school, selected an advanced ILA class in 9th grade. So one of the things that we're hoping to get out of this is that we've got some students who, I talk about high expectations for all students. We've got some students who learn they can be successful in some classes they may not have thought they would be successful in. And we're pretty proud of that particular data set. We've got lots of opportunities for continued support. And our next steps is we'd like to continue this pilot so we can continue to gather data. I may mention that this is kind of our second real year. We had some growth data that we haven't seen since 2019 through STAR. I'll share with you on the STAR overview. But we're pretty excited about what we've learned. We're pretty excited about some opportunities that we have to increase our efficiency in practice. And very, very thankful for our teachers and our administrators for supporting this and our community. So, thank you.
Board, what questions do you have for Dr. Cunningham?
I have a few. The first question is, do we have a target end date for the pilot? is there a target date where you'll come back to us and say, okay, we're gonna end the pilot, and we want to know whether we should move forward or not?
So statistically speaking, we like to have about 3 years worth of data to make an eventual determination.
Okay, and did we use any other measurement tools besides the STAR to determine their progress?
We have some internal benchmark data. We have some internal walkthrough observational data. Trying to listen to the feedback that we received from parents, teachers, and students. Yes.
Okay, and then final question, I promise.
That's okay.
Will we have access to the survey questions?
Yes, I will share that with you in detail on the base. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a few questions also.
Yes.
So you mentioned the STAR testing as a criteria, and you mentioned the selection of advanced English. Are there any other factors, this is kind of along the lines of Ms. Davis's question, but are there any other factors that we could or should be looking at in terms of how to determine if this program is a success?
We've asked the teachers and our staff for any additional data they would look at. Right now, what I've told you in terms of data set we're looking at is what we continue to come across. I know that there are some questions about how we communicated this and clarity on expectations, and we've got some plans to do a better job in the fall about that. That'd be an area that we need to try to improve upon.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm saying, and maybe I didn't say it very clearly, but like, how are we going to know if we've hit the threshold? Like, what is the threshold? You mentioned a few numbers that certain things went up a certain percentage. Was there a target, or is there a target that if we see this number go from here to here, then therefore we will consider this to be a success, and therefore we should expand it to our other 9 middle schools?
I think if we continue to see student success and correlate with STAR scores, snapshot scores, internal data, I think that we want to take a possible look at expanding this across the board. I'm not committed to doing this across the board at every campus at this point. We've got some data right now that's Shjc that has some success. The hard part about your question is causation is very difficult to target with this. And so I can tell you that we've got some results that are looking positive, but I don't know that I can necessarily point at this point to a causation. The other thing we're looking at is trying to see, is this continue to increase enrollment in upper level courses at high school? Our students are branching out and trying other things. Is that a level of success? And you saw about 7% increase so far. Our initial enrollment data shows about a 3 to 4% increase for next year. We need that to continue. So I don't really have hard targets for you at this point, but right now this is the first. I'll be real again transparent. This is we had the first real set of valid STAR scores this year. We've had in a couple of years, and so we want to continue to see if that continues to grow.
Okay. Did we look at the campuses? Did we break down the campuses to see if there was any trends with, like, some campuses did better than others? We have 8 campuses, right? So was there maybe 4 that were way up here and then 4 that were maybe not so high?
I can share campus level data with you. We don't have it broken down in this presentation, but I can share that with you.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting to look at, because some of it could be how the campus executed on it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then on the statistics slide, I don't know if you could go back to that real quick.
Oops. I'm on the way out of it. Not too far back. Which one are you?
Next. Okay. So how many students does that represent? Is that all ILA students, or I guess it would be all students minus the GT students at all 8 campuses? It's all, how many students is that? I see that, yeah. How many? 3,000, okay.
Okay, but we've got non-pilot students as well.
No, I was asking, yeah, how many,
yes,
I guess
yes,
I was really asking, like, how
yes.
many students are in the pilot currently?
We've got about 3,000.
3,000, okay. And then if you could go back to the previous slide. So, can you explain to me the 4.5 scale score points? Because
Dr. and I explained this to you.
Okay.
and I don't know if I'll do a terrific job with that, but the STAR test has a traditional percent score, which most of us are familiar with. The STAR test, because it also measures growth of students over time, it reports a scale score, which ranges from the low 600s, and each grade level, the score progresses over time. So it's a vertical scale score of student progress over time, which really, in terms of students, we really don't talk to students about scale score or parents. It's really more of an internal measure to look at growth over time.
Okay, thank you. So, also on the next slide, I think it was on the next slide, maybe the one after that. Oh no, I'm sorry, previous one. It talks about greater than expected growth. What does that mean?
There's a growth measure from the STAR, and they identify these students met exactly where they're supposed to go. These students grew greater than they were expected to.
Okay.
So it's an additional growth measure data set.
Okay, and then on the priority slide towards the beginning, it stated that one of the goals of this pilot was to ensure equitable access for all learners. So in what ways are the schools that have the differentiated ILA classes, maybe the non-pilot schools would be a better way to say it, how are they not doing that? I'm trying to understand where the equitable access part comes in with the one level versus the differentiated.
So I want to make sure we believe that what's happening in our non-pilot campus classes, it's Frisco ISD level, they're getting a great education. We're not dismissing that at all in the work that they're doing. What we've learned over time is that one of the things that, because we're an open enrollment system, students, parents select, I want my student to be on level, my student to be on, and we're trying to pilot this program to differentiate learning students for all, so that the student who might not have selected an advanced class, now they're in a system and a structure where they are taking advanced level coursework, and that's kind of what we're trying to get to. And we're just, it's a pilot for reasons, and trying to see is this actually getting the goal. And so far we got some growth, and we want to continue to see more, but that's the best answer I can give you. It also helps with scheduling. Some of the things that some of our teachers in some campuses, they're teaching 3 different types of ILA, and that's an awful lot of preps, an awful lot of work for our ILA teachers at middle school, and this is another, when we talk about efficiency, that's a piece that we're considering.
Okay, but at the non-pilot campuses, no one is being denied access to the advanced classes, right?
Yes, you're exactly right.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, I just have a
No,
few more,
that's
then
quite
I'll
all
be
right.
done. So one of the other things I saw in the presentation was that there was an identified need that teachers needed help in how to differentiate the learning.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did we know that? Like what data told us that teachers were struggling with that?
It's through observation data, qualitative in nature, and when we determined that this would be something we might try, one of the things that we said is that it's trying to teach at a high level, which means we have to give teachers the tools and help them with equipping them, and how do you differentiate for different needs of students in a class. Our teachers are magicians at this most of the time anyway, but now that students have not been necessarily self-selected during this course, and we want to make sure that this wasn't just one more thing we were throwing on teachers' plates and here, y'all do this, have fun. We want to make sure that we provide them support, the training, and so when we say that, that's what we're getting to.
Okay. All right. Last thing, and you kind of spoke to it around the communication of the program and how it was communicated. And I think that this is an issue that I ran on, and I talked to hundreds of people about this particular issue, as you probably know. And I talked to hundreds of folks, some who had kids in the pilot, some who did not, and then some who just, heard about it and maybe didn't hear all of this, right? But they heard about the program. And a lot of them, at least the ones that I talked to, they struggled with understanding kind of why we were doing this, what was the purpose, what was the outcome, those kinds of things. And a lot of the parents were concerned about how are you gonna differentiate in the same classroom? And some of the anecdotal feedback is that, at least in these folks' experience, that it wasn't happening that way. So maybe some of these measures that we're putting in place will solve for that. But I think that some of the concern is kind of what you spoke to about the way that it's been communicated, because it was communicated, using some of the language around, well, we're doing this for equity reasons, right? And there's this national trend in public education to eliminate advanced classes in the name of equity. And I'm not saying here in Frisco ISD, but I'm saying across the nation. So it gets a little conflated at times. So I think that is something that we've really got to, if that's not the purpose, I think we've got to really clarify that and make sure people understand in the community, especially the parents at the pilot schools, but even the parents not at the pilot schools, because it can end up at all 17 schools at some point, right? What are we trying to accomplish? How are we going about accomplishing that, and what some of those measures are? So I think some of that survey feedback would be important to share with the community, and some of the student feedback and the teacher feedback. I think that's something that we need to really look at as we get into our now third year of doing this pilot.
That's why I said the new to go. I want to make sure we're not looking at doing away with advanced courses or AP courses. That's not in our thing at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Cunningham, I have a quick question as well. So as we're looking at STAR results as part of the data collection, when will we be able to look at end of course exams for these students? Will that be next year? When they're in high school, but will the students that started the pilot, we're almost, next year will be year 3, so will they take their first EOC exams in English next year?
We do actually have some students this year
They've already done that?
that have been in the first year of the pilot. That we don't have that level of specificity yet on the data sets for us to pull and have any faith and confidence. We're still getting some of the STAR scores in from TEA. I'm getting ready to share the presentation.
You're in Texas, you can say fixing it.
With some preliminary STAR data, and so before we get to that level of data, the solid data from the state. So we should have some number to report to you in the early fall.
And I know that we're a few years behind with STAR because of COVID, and not all students were required to take it last year, and so we're kind of getting back into our normal groove of that data. But I do think that longitudinal data that the EOC can provide will be important as we really assess this pilot moving forward. I think the data that you're showing us today is really impressive, but again, it's 1 year, so I think that more data points are going to be really important to share with the board and the community. We want to make sure they have the success going forward beyond this first year.
Sorry, I said I was done, but I thought of something else based on Ms. Archambault's question. Is the STAR test the best measure that we should use to evaluate success of this program?
I think it's a measure that we want to look at. As I said several times, we've got some internal data. I haven't shared it with you all as well. So the public's used to seeing STAR data. We have snapshot data, and we have some other internal data that we can put together and share. But I think it's a measure that we want to take a look at. But triangulating with other measures, qualitative measures, internal data, survey, feedback data, it's all important for us.
Comment on the STAR as a measure of this. I mean, I know that all schools have a complicated relationship with the STAR test and its mandates and its moving targets and all of its changes. But it is what the state uses to grade Frisco ISD in our individual campuses. So to that extent, if we're going to measure if the true meaning or the true purpose of this pilot is to improve student outcomes, to close achievement gaps as they exist with subpopulations, and to the extent the data shows that this works, in the state's eyes, Frisco ISD is doing a better job, gets a better grade. The public understands an 8F system, whether we like it or not. So it should be a measure. I mean, I understand why you're using it as a measure. I can also understand why we and parents would want some other internal measures like we use in all of our other courses to be an evaluator for this too. We've heard a lot of anecdotes over the last year plus on this pilot, and to Ms. Alot's point, some from parents who've had kids in the pilot, some who are parents who have not had kids in the pilot, and some who don't have kids at all in FISD. So those anecdotes, as a board member, I need to know how to separate the anecdotes from what's truly happening at a holistic level in the district. And so we should make this decision as a data-driven decision. I know you guys are doing that. But we should also strive to improve the communication to all of those parties, and especially, probably the most, to the ones who might have kids in the pilot, who have found a true struggle with it, or something in particular on their middle school campus that gave them heartburn about it. I know individual teachers and principals are doing that, but at a board level, we need to say that it's important to us too. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
May I add? The one thing that I will say is, being over the major programs in Dr. Cunningham's department and worked within that department for several years, is we never have, since I've been here for 22 years, nor I ever think this district ever will do anything except raise expectations for children. And that was the purpose of this. And this is not the first time we've seen this. We actually accidentally did some things years ago with biology, where we had a group of teachers that were teaching on-level biology and pre-AP biology, okay? And they got the idea, we're going to plan for both of them. We're just going to plan for the pre-AP class, and we're going to teach everybody the same way. So they used the upper level plans to teach all the classes. Then all of a sudden, in the data that I'm monitoring, there's a standard deviation of improvement from one year to the next year. We watched it, then we watched another year, and it hung it. We didn't know what had happened. And so we went to go into that high school and sit down with them and say, tell us what you did. Because it was something that you did that's the only time I've ever really seen it. We had two high schools, and what they were doing, they were basically planning for the on-level and the pre-AP class the exact same way, except they were teaching the class at the pre-AP level and differentiating for kids that might struggle in there to help pull them up. You know, one thing that I will say is we will always and always have, this is not a win-lose game that we're in, we're in a win-win game. And anytime we can do anything to stretch our upper level kids that do really, really well, and we can push them further, we're obligated to do that. And along the way, if that takes some kids that struggles and challenges them, then they find that they can actually do that level of work, which is what we found, then they have to have some supports and some mechanisms in place, okay, then we're obligated to do that. So I'm very proud of what we've done. This is a positive look. It takes a lot of time and training and work to pull everybody along, to get everybody really get good numbers. We got to make sure everybody's also getting the training that they need and everything, so everybody's doing the same thing and they're marching along together, so we get a good look at the pilot versus the group that's not the pilot. So I just wanted to add that this is a hopefully a win-win, that we're adding value to every student in the district and not just a few.
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Board, any other questions? Dr. Cunningham, would you like to present the STAR scores since you're already there?
So we have provided the board with a different set of data. We've got campus level data, and we will continue to add data as we get it from the state. Currently what we have is kind of a high level look. This is still preliminary results from TEA. I believe this is about the most we've shared this type of data with you in the past, and so we want to make sure we let you know it's still preliminary, we're still high level, and we'll continue to get you data as we get it. I need to make sure I publicly thank our teachers and our students for what they did this year. By all accounts, it was an interesting year, and our students persevered, as did our teachers, and we're very thankful for their work. So we have this broken down to reading, math, and subsets of elementary, middle, and high. And What we've got here is the yellow bar is 2021, the blue bar is 2022. And what we've done right now is just kind of take a look at approaches, meets, and masters, and the percentage of students who met that criteria, just in a comparison look for you. This does include English and Spanish language versions, but does not yet include Star Alt 2. We're still waiting on some of those data sets. You can see we've had some positive change, positive variance in approaches, meets, and masters. This is all elementary students combined. This is elementary mathematics. This is set up all the way through. Yellow is going to be 2021, blue is going to be 2022. At least I think that's blue, it might be colorblind. But you'll see some positive variance across the board here with approaches, meets, and masters. We'll get to middle school.
Dr. Cunningham, can I just ask you to explain something on these slides, because it's not adding up to me. So if 86% are approaches, how do I get to 100% of all students on this slide?
I didn't turn myself off on purpose, I promise. Approaches is their approaching grade level expectations. Meets is they've met grade level expectations, and masters is they've succeeded. And that's the way the state gives us the information. So for a student, we've got 86% of our students on this slide here that met the approaches mark. Well, that includes students who had met expectations and had mastered expectations. So they're not going to get 100%. Great question.
Got it, thank you.
And I thank you for pointing that out, because I knew what it meant. So I appreciate you making sure I let you know. So middle school English language arts, and you'll see again kind of a trend sort of does not include Star Alt 2, and this is positive variance across approaches, meets, and masters. And just so I can say, this is pilot, non-pilot, all of the above. It's all students in middle school, 6, 7, 8. And you have middle school math. You see some positive variance as well across the board. And these are students who took in middle school math, you may know that some students take high school level coursework, and these are students who took the 6th, 7th, 8th grade STAR math exam. So we get in the EOCs. We have high school algebra EOC, and you see some positive variance in masters and meets, and fairly similar results in approaches. High school biology EOC, similar. We've got some positive variance in meets and masters, and a little bit of about the same in approaches with a little bit negative variance. High school English 1 EOC, right dead even in approaches with positive variance in meets and masters. And I'll remind you that in all of these scores, these are still preliminary. We're still trying to do some data analysis behind the scenes to make sure that we're asking the right questions and doing the right analysis as we get this data in fairly early. High school English 2 EOC. So you have some negative variance here, year to year. One of the things that we don't yet know is the scale score and what the setting was. So while I can compare percentages with you, we don't have some of the in-level data we get from TEA about where they cut it off at approaches, meets, and masters. So we don't have that data yet. We'll share that with you once we do.
What you're saying there is that you don't know yet whether the bar was raised from one year to the next.
Correct. high school history, U.S. history EOC. Boy, it'd be hard to go much higher than 98% on approaches, but we'd still like to. But we're still right there even with positive variance and meets and masters in U.S. history. And this is across the board. You mentioned the growth measure in the earlier slide deck. How many of our students have met or exceeded growth in terms of the STAR growth progress measure? And this is just a single look at all of this. I will tell you that the Algebra 1, what you see in that data point, 75%, that is students who were in high school that took the Algebra 1 EOC, and students in middle school who took the Algebra 1 EOC. That's a mixed, so we get that question, but I'm not sure if that. So again, I know that this is just a high-level look at some things. We'll give you additional specific data. We don't yet have demographic data. We don't yet have standards-based data. We don't yet have the scale score and really set the bar, but what that bar set. But we want to make sure that we share it with you tonight.
And the thick, detailed taper report, where all of the data is and can be broken down and all that kind of thing. What time of year is that released, just for the public's knowledge?
December is when we get that. We get our report card in August. We get some data on August 15th, and we'll have a much more detailed look in December. So we'll share that with you. We'll have you get a little bit of a heads up look at it as we get it.
Okay. Thank you guys. Thank all of you. Yeah.
And Dr. Cunningham, when, I know you and I spoke briefly about this, but when do you expect that we'll have both the state of Texas and Region 10 data so we can do a comparative analysis?
I'm going to do it after June 24th.
Okay, great. So we'll have that soon.
Yes.
And then I just wanted to make mention as well that the district sent out an email for parents as to how they download their child's STAR scores. And so if you're curious, if you're watching, the STAR score should be June 13th is today, and so many of them should be available on the student portal today. So
easy to access.
Check your email, and you'll be able to find those. Board, any questions?
One thing, especially the elementary and middle school numbers seems to be good this year. So, is there any connection with the COVID and in person? Can we draw something like that, or it's not?
I don't think at this point we can draw any conclusions. We don't yet have all the data that we need to draw that conclusion. But I do believe, anecdotally and unofficially, we did have a few more students show up to test this year than we had in the past. So that's nice.
And the STAR, not all students were online, but we're trending towards that. When were all of our students taking it online this year?
Great question. Next year.
Next year. Okay.
Requiring us to go online, yes.
Okay. 22, so 22, 23, all students will take it online.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Fingers crossed. Okay, we'll move on to item 12, discussion regarding Shjc approval of instructional materials related to SB 9. Dr. Cunningham, you're up again. There.
3 in a row. You're lucky. One of the things that we talked about this in April and then in May and then in June again. I need to give some public credit to Dr. Jody Davis for leading Shjc this year. She's somewhere in the crowd, and she did a fantastic job leading Shjc this year. And Shjc's the Student Health Advisory Council. They've got, here's their vision and their mission. And again, Dr. Davis did a great job with this through the school year. And they have here their goals. I'd be remiss if I didn't share with this a group of teachers and citizens that come together and they're concerned about health and wellness, and make certain that we are getting feedback from this group. This is one of the groups through Texas Education Code that has some significant authority, and so that's one of the reasons I'm here with you this evening. This is the reason I'm here this evening. In the last legislative session, the state of Texas passed 2 bills, one House Bill 1525, one Senate Bill 9. I talked about this before. It makes amendments to the Education Code that requires the Board of Trustees to adopt a resolution that will convene the Local Health Advisory Council, or Shjc, for the purpose of making recommendations regarding curricular materials, and required Shjc to hold at least 2 public meetings on curricular materials before making a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. That's why we're here this evening. We started the process for acquisition of materials related to health and PE way back in October. And we do this on a regular basis anytime the state releases a new adoption materials for a variety of curriculum materials, changes the TEKS, changes the standards. And so we had a teachers committee. They were formed back in October, and they met and did a variety of activities. You can see some of the things that they've done. I've shared this with you. Well, Dr. Davis shared this with you all back in April. And they came and provided a recommendation to the board. We do this every year, whether we're actually not technically required to do so, but out of transparency, we'll make sure you all know what the teachers selected and what they're looking at. I gave you an idea about the quote. And then after that, we held on, because of your recommendation in May, we needed to bring Shjc together. So the Shjc could take a look at what the teachers recommended, and then Shjc would provide the formal recommendation. So that's kind of a timeline. I give James Ayers and Melissa Ellis and our teacher committee a ton of credit for the work they did there. Remind you that the elementary PE health curriculum recommended use IMA funds for Quaver education. Some of the feedback we received was some concern about student rostering. We've confirmed with Quaver education that no student rostering will be necessary conducted. And we're hopeful that we could have our curriculum writers work this summer to select some materials that align with the skill development nutrition 2022 elementary health TEKS, and that's what the teacher committee recommended, and that's what we proposed to Shjc. Secondary, again, was to use IMA funds to purchase Texas Health Skills for high school instructional materials for Goodhart Wilcox. It's the only option that 100% of the TEKS for health and PE adopted by the State Board of Education, and again, our folks are going to try to use that. So I'll kind of back up. In April, our teachers gave you these two recommended these two sets of materials. We did, after that meeting, post a public comment link to see, so parents and community can take a look at the materials. We received 2 comments. One was in favor, one was against the material which the teachers had selected. After this, in May, you will convene Shjc to have 2 public meetings to look at the materials and make a recommendation. And the Shjc did meet on May 17th and May 24th in 2 open public meetings. And they met, and they, on May 24th, voted to recommend the purchase of instructional materials in alignment with what the teacher committee recommended. And so this is telling you kind of what we're here for, what they did, publicly thanking the Student Health Advisory Council for their work. They came together for 2 very quick meetings after they thought their year was done, and did a really good job asking great questions, both through the materials, I think are pretty high level, and later on, we'll be asking for your approval of Shjc's recommendation to purchase the instructional materials as recommended by the teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Cunningham. Board, any questions? Thank you. We will move on to item 13, public hearing regarding the 2022-2023 proposed budget and tax rate. I mean, Dr. Cunningham, you want to just do this one too? You want to talk about tax rates? No?
I'll get somebody to raise it and do it.
Mrs. Smith.
He's had to sit in so many budget meetings, he probably could. Okay, I'm gonna keep this super short, because you guys sat through 2 hours of me talking about the budget, like a week ago or something. This is a infographic about our budget. We have proposed to you guys just over $692.6 million general fund budget, which I will remind you is a deficit budget of a little under $23 million. I've kind of put some of the highlights in this infographic for you. I think the biggest piece of it really is employee raises. We've recommended a 4% raise for teachers and other instructional professional employees, and a 3.25% raise for all other employees. I really think that's about all I have to say. Just to remind you what was in it. All of the materials from the budget workshop have been posted on our public facing website under that financial transparency tab, so they're all out there if anybody wants to go and look at it. As far as next steps go, there will be a meeting on the 20th, next Monday, for you guys to vote on the official budget for the three funds, the general fund, the child nutrition fund, and the debt service fund, plus our 2022-2023 compensation plan. And at that time, we will have the full budget book with all the materials that were included in the presentation on the first, included in it, and ready to go to be posted online.
Board, any questions for Ms. Smith?
I don't have a question, but just a couple of comments, and some of this I said last week in the budget workshop, but some of it is since I've had a chance to kind of think about it since then. So I'll just share a few thoughts. It's not really a question, but well, there are a few questions in here actually. So I'll just start. I spoke to a family friend of ours last weekend who just got her credential, and she applied here, but then she got a job to teach somewhere else in Garland, and she chose Garland because their starting salary is higher, and because she said the cost of living was lower. And so it just really got me thinking of like sort of the hidden costs, right, that you can't account for in this. There's no line item for that, right? But then I also opened up my community impact newspaper over the weekend and saw that we've got Richardson ISD putting ads into our Frisco newspaper to hire teachers. So I just think there's some things that maybe we can't resolve them this year on this budget. I understand that, and I realize I'm coming in here very late, and that makes this all very challenging. And I certainly want to honor the work that you and the leadership team have done to get to that 4% raise, because I know that took some work. You shared with me a little bit about all that took. I guess what I would just say is that, you know, our teachers are dealing, and all of our staff really, not just our teachers, all of us, right, are dealing with this 8% inflation. I think I heard when I was driving over here, it's now 8.6% inflation, and that's going up. That's certainly not our fault, right? We can't control that, but it is our problem in terms of we've got to like figure out how to adjust and to deal with that. So from what I have learned recently, this is kind of a year-round process, so I guess in terms of the budget, it's not just something we do in 30 days. So I guess what I would just add is that I'd like to see us start that work now to help bridge that gap so that we can do more for our teachers and our staff next year, including, you know, our bus drivers, our paraprofessionals, all those folks. So I also wanted to say that I really applaud the strategic abandonment work that you've been doing, that you shared with me, and I know we talked about it in the budget workshop, so I'm not going to ask you to go over it again, but I think that's a really important exercise. What I'd like to see is the results of that at some point be shared with the public. Like, here's the things we decided to abandon, and here's how much that saved our district, right? I'd love to see us do something like that, maybe before the end of this calendar year. I think that, and by the way, I love the term strategic abandonment. I don't know who came up with that, but I really like that term. I think it's great. But I'd like to see that. And then I wasn't sure, as part of the finance committee, do we have a cost-cutting initiative as well? Is that part of that, or is that just really more the work that you do with the budget leaders?
So I'll address kind of all of your comments and questions in just a couple of just general statements about our budget process. And then I'll let Dr. Linton chime in if she wants to, just about the employee retention and the starting salary piece. But we have used what we call a priorities-based budgeting model in FISD since 2016. It is a continuous improvement sort of budgeting process. So we are constantly looking for cost-cutting measures. We don't have a strict standard, you know, across the board, everybody go find 10% of your budget that you can cut so that we can pay for something else, because that we feel just in our budgeting philosophy does a disservice to you know, different programs in areas that may actually need that money, and cutting 10% or some arbitrary number would not benefit kids essentially, and what we're trying to do as a district. So instead, we employ a priorities-based budgeting model where department budget owners, who are the owners of the vast majority of the district's budget, constantly look at what they have available to them to spend, what they are spending their money on. We ask everybody to go do a 3-year look back every year as they're going through their budget development process, which for them starts in November pretty heavily. we asked them to go look. What have you been planning to spend your money on? What are you currently spending your money on? Is there any room for efficiencies in there? We talk a lot about, are there ways to combine efforts or dial something back because you don't need as much support as you did when you first implemented this program or this cost, right? So it's an ongoing, continuous improvement effort in terms of a cost-cutting strategy. And it is a year-long process. Regarding the strategic abandonment initiative, we do fully intend to report out on that, just like we're doing with all of our strategic change initiatives. That's something that we as a leadership team are being really thoughtful and intentional about as we kind of formalize this strategic change model as a district, that we are continuously communicating both with the board, with the community, with internal and external stakeholders about all of our district-wide initiatives. So that will be one of those that we model that formal communication at board meetings. I can't guarantee that it will be done by the end of this calendar year, because a lot of the things that we're talking about when we're looking at it, I mean, it's 73 campuses, right? And we're talking about steering a cruise ship, essentially. It takes a little bit of time, but we are committed to going through it and seeing what it is that we can do for staff. And at the end of the day, it may not end up saving us any money, but the ultimate goal would be to build the capacity in our people with whatever we let go of to be able to move forward, right? With less stress, with less burnout, feeling supported and good about the direction that we're going in. And so if that's all we accomplish and we don't save any money, I think that it would still be successful. In terms of starting salaries, the only thing that I'll say about that is it's pretty stiff competition this year with starting teacher pay, right? And I know you weren't on the board in February when we had our first meeting, but where we started versus where we ended is significant. We started by looking at a 2% raise, because when you calculate the revenue that we're going to get, knowing that we have to open 2 new schools next year and staff those schools, that's all the money, that's all that was available in terms of revenue. The more work that we did, the more comfortable we got with being able to adopt a deficit budget. We repurposed some of those ESSER funds to help cover next year, and we got from 2% to 4% over the course of the semester. I realize that's not as big of a raise, and our starting salary is not quite as high as what some other districts are doing. I'll say a couple of things. Other districts around us are adopting much larger deficit budgets than we are, which means they're taking a little bit more of a gamble than we are. They also have significantly more ESSER money than we do to help fill that gap for the 1 year. So all the ESSER money expires at the same time. We're all doing the same thing, essentially. It's just how much of a gamble can you take that during the legislative session something potentially changes with school funding, or how capable are you as a district to make that up and rebalance the budget going forward if nothing comes out of the legislative session. So that's something that's really important to us and that we take into consideration when we're developing any budget, but especially a deficit one. I don't know if you want to add anything about recruitment.
Kim, before we move on to Dr. Lind, I'm sorry, this is imperative, I think, that we speak about in this moment. Last year and going forward, we're always going to try to push funding back into the pockets of our staff and our teachers. And we saw time and time again throughout COVID and through retention bonuses and through supply stipends that your team has always been very thoughtful as far as the district has a surplus here, we have ESSER funds here, let's get that into the pockets of our staff and our teachers. And I know going forward that we're going to do the same thing. We have a few years left of the retention bonus. I know that's not mentioned on this slide, but it's a substantial one-time payment to our teachers and staff, and that's not something that districts around us each year, the teachers and staff in other districts are being able to recognize. So I think every district has to do with what they have. Some districts have a larger recapture than we do. Some have additional ESSER funds, and everyone has to do what's best for their community. I've always been appreciative as a board member that
every dollar that we have, we try to get it back into the hands of our teachers and staff. So I want to thank you for that, but I do, because it's not mentioned on this slide, I do think, we're talking about what the budget looks like going forward, but that is a big component of that structure for next year for compensation and benefits.
That's true. Thank you for pointing that
Can
out.
I throw one thing into, and this was kind of to Dr. Walter's point in our last meeting, there are districts who inflate beginning teacher pay, and then teachers who've been with them 5, 10, 15 years, they're not making the money that the teachers here are making. So that's definitely a trend that you see in districts that are around us.
You want to add anything? No, I'm good. Okay.
Oh, I don't want to cut somebody off. I was going to mention something that I said during the workshop last time, and for those at home that didn't see that, that's 2 hours of much more detailed information than what you're getting tonight. But I just completely lost my train of thought. If I get it back,
I think I might have an idea what you're going to say.
Okay.
This is exciting.
This is going to be fun.
This is going to be so fun for us. Because I remember you mentioning at the workshop, one of the things that you mentioned at the workshop was that, as we go forward and we,
that's it.
yeah, see, I read your mind. Would you like to repeat yourself, or do you want me to say it for you? You mentioned that, we can always come back and take a look at this as we get going through the year and as we see what the needs are of our staff, as we see what the legislature is going to do. And we can always make up ground next year once we have a better idea of what funding looks like coming from the state through the legislative session. It's always hard to do a budget in the year before a legislative session. It's really extra hard to do a budget in the year during a legislative session because you don't know how it's going to end up. But yes, we can always come back and make up ground if we feel like that's something that we need to do in terms of recruitment and retention. I will give kudos to our HR department. They look constantly at what other districts are doing in terms of compensation, and we have been really intentional about making sure that it's not just salaries that we're trying to kind of promote as retention tools. It's really the whole package of what you get when you work for Frisco ISD in terms of benefits and support and training, and even things like being able to bring your kid to school here if you don't live within the district. So we're also making an effort to highlight those extra non-salary things as part of our recruitment packages, because there are some things that we offer that a lot of school districts don't.
Mr. Tracy, that was a really good question.
if this is not the right time, tell me, but the last part of the census does mention the tax rate. I know you've got it here on the infographic. You want to briefly describe the time frame of that?
Sure.
Because I know a detailed explanation is on that video from last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yes, there is a detailed explanation of how our tax rate works and is calculated on that video that you said was cute. Thank you for that. So our tax rate will be officially adopted in August, potentially September, just depending on the timing when we get reports back from TEA. This is an estimated tax rate, and it's based on what we're expecting our taxable value to grow by and what we're also expecting the state's kind of floor and ceiling for tax rates to be. So it might change, it likely will change a little bit between now and the time we officially adopt the tax rate. Tax rate does not impact our budget for operations because, as you guys know, if our local collections increase or decrease, it just has the opposite effect on state aid. So next steps are for you guys to adopt the budget next week and then the tax rate in August, and we'll update all of these materials if the tax rate changes.
And that estimation that you've got on the screen right there is what difference between the prior year and the estimation?
This year's is $1.26, so it's a little less than 4 cents.
Okay, thank you.
And this will be the 4th year in a row that we've been able to lower, the 5th year that we've been able to lower tax rates?
Since House Bill 3 was enacted, which was in 2019, so the 2019-2020 tax rate was the first year that was reduced, and so it's been going down ever since our property values have been rising.
Great.
Kim, before you leave this, I want to go back to that teacher pay, starting teacher pay thing, using Garland as an example. Address just briefly the strain it puts on us to open campuses and how we used to offset that prior to current year values, because that has had a significant impact on our ability to open campuses at the rate that we've opened. And I don't know this to be true, but I don't think Garland's opening a new campus.
I don't know that to be true either, but I don't think they are either. That's a really good point. And you know, something that I did not bring up at the budget workshop was property value lag. And you guys that have been on the board for a while remember that pre-House Bill 3, we had something that we were actually required to talk to you guys about every year, which was property value lag, meaning that the state's funding formula was based on prior year property values. And what that does for a school district when you're in an environment with continuously rising property values is it gives you this windfall each year that you increase more than you increased the year before. And so that lag really was our way as a fast growth district of dealing with rising costs from opening schools. So a couple of things were different kind of back then when we were opening 2, 3, 4 schools a year versus now. Back then we were adding 3,000 students a year, which essentially filled up that brand new school immediately and generated all the revenue we needed to pay for the cost of operating that school. Now that it takes us, you know, maybe 2 to 4 years to get, you know, fully offset the cost of opening a school with added enrollment growth. So there's that difference. Also, we no longer have property value lag. So when House Bill 3 moved the funding formula from prior year values to current year values, we lost that annual windfall that we got, for lack of a better term, and we're no longer able to settle up with prior year growth and help us, you know, open those schools. So that really was, you know, if I look back, I started thinking about this, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago. You know, how did we manage this before to open 3, 4 schools and still give 2% raises or 3% raises? And it was not a problem. It was because of property value lag, and that's how we and many other fast growth districts address that.
And my point in all that is that given the environment we're in now with current year values and the fact that comparing us to districts that don't open campuses,
yeah,
and these other things, there would be more funds available to do more for our teachers were we not in the situation we're in. Garland and Frisco ISD are not apples to apples comparisons when we're dealing with school finances.
Yeah, and I don't think you can compare Frisco really to any other school in the area. I mean, you guys know it's hard to find peer districts to compare ourselves to when we do financial benchmarking because we're growing like no other district around us. We have a very different demographic makeup than most of the districts that we would compare ourselves to of similar sizes, and we have very different financial needs than other school districts do. So, you know, you can't even compare us to Plano, which is a similar size and just south of us, because their property value is so different that they're paying astronomical amounts of recapture every year where we're not doing that. So it's really difficult to compare district to district. I totally understand why people do it, especially when beginning teacher pay is in the headlines. But I do just want to say that the leadership team worked really, really hard to get to where we got, and we feel really confident in what we were able to do and the fact that we haven't stretched ourselves too far to where we don't think that we can sustain the decisions that we're making.
Thank you, board. Any other questions for this one? Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 14, communications to and from the board, including public comments. We did not have any communications, so we will move straight into public comments. Mr. Clayson.
Now move to public comment session of our agenda. The board welcomes comments regarding action items from citizens who have completed public comment cards this evening, which are accepted until 15 minutes prior to the beginning of the open meeting and are not transferable to other speakers. Please be advised that the information shared in public comment is not an endorsement of the information shared by the presenter and solely provides the opinion of the individual speaker, not the district. During the public comment period, comments should be directed to the Board of Trustees only, not other attendees, and only made once you have been called upon to speak. To ensure that all speakers are treated equally and have the same amount of time, the podium microphone will be turned off at the conclusion of the time for every speaker. Each speaker shall have 2 minutes to address the board regarding action items on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Speakers will be called in the order in which each individual signed up to speak. Please keep all public comments related to school district governance and operations. If you have a specific concern related to an employee of the district or a specific student issue, you should utilize the district's grievance procedures provided in board policies DGBA local, F&G local, and GF local. Each grievance procedure allows for an individual to redress grievances with the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Stephen Brunson, followed by Allison Darrow.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Brunson. I'm a Frisco resident. About the only positive thing that came out of the COVID pandemic was that parents, for the first time, got a chance to look over their children's shoulders and see what's going on in the classroom, see what's being taught to them in the classroom. Some of the things they found were important, and we told you about it. We were appalled at some of the things that were being programmed during some of those lines. We told you all about it. The board at that time did not listen. They did not listen. And I'm curious if they're listening now. Given the turn of events on May the 7th, I wonder if they're listening now. Because if you're not listening now, what transpired on May the 7th is going to be repeated in a year. Understand, the parents of the students of the school district are preeminently concerned about what gets put in their children's minds in the classroom. That's their Bunker Hill. That's where they have set their flag, and they're not going to retreat. We formed Families for Frisco for that very reason. This is a democratic exercise that's going on right in front of you folks. We have proven that we will not be intimidated, and we will prove again and again that we will not be stopped. We will accomplish our stated mission. Thank you.
Allison Darrow, followed by Keith Brunson.
Miss Elad, congratulations. And go Paul. Can't see him there, but congratulations, and Marvin as well. My name is Allison Darrow. This is a status check on FISD's response to the gay, trans, and heterosexual pornographic book crisis that us parents discovered in summer 2021, 12 months ago. Frisco parents have found around 15 books so far on our own. Prosper parents have found 35 books so far. Representative Matt Krause distributed a list of over 800 problematic books found in Texas public schools, so there are likely many more on FISD shelves. FISD's solution to the problem was to make it the parent's exclusive duty to find the obscene books, which is akin to asking one's boss to do one's job for oneself. FISD has not conducted its own proactive search and purge of the library collection, not even using the pre-existing lists. FISD has publicly minimized the pornography issue, gaslighting the concerned parents and elected representatives. In April 2022, the board approved $387,000 for 6 new employees to weed the library for a problem that they said was very minimal. FISD is presenting its new policies to prevent obscene content 12 months from summer 2021. Dr. Waldrop projects it will take at least a year to complete the review by summer 2023, which is 24 months from summer 2021. As both a corporate executive and parent, I rate FISD's handling of this crisis as an F due to ineffective leadership, problem solving, and management typical of government entities, unprofessional communication, alienating core constituents, reputational damage to our beloved FISD, and eroding the parents' trust.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Keith Brunson, followed by our final speaker, Anna Maria Grelis.
Hey, good evening. How you guys doing? Good. My name is Keith Brunson. First and foremost, welcome Marvin and Stephanie. Thank you both for your time, your energy, effort, and passion becoming trustees. We look forward to your governance. I'm speaking tonight on the action item 15 Delta, proposed policy as it pertains to curriculum changes. My son is taking an online FISD summer school communications class. The Anti-Defamation League presentations are used as his online source document for so-called general communication guidance. Examples of their guidance: Don't use mankind, postman, fireman, or policeman. Eliminate singular pronouns altogether in your speech. Don't use he, she, him, or her. Use plurals such as they, them, and their. This makes your communication more relatable to everyone. This is obviously a problematic concern for any parent with a sane mind. As if by design, the FISD change process is arduous and dissuades already busy parents from driving much needed change in the school district. So where in the halls of this building is the oversight to keep this from ever getting into the curriculum in the first place? That's where the emphasis should should be, not after the fact when curriculum change procedures are being proposed. It should be stopped right here in this building. Please, Frisco, just make it stop. We're waiting. And before I go, just off cue here, I think I speak for most parents on this side of the aisle in this effort. We don't hate Frisco. We don't hate you. We don't hate our schools. We don't hate our parents. We just hate what's happening. And it is happening. This is just one example. So I'm ready for you guys to make some change and start listening. Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening. First of all, I would like to congratulate Stephanie Alad and Marvin Lowe for becoming new members of the Board of Trustees. And I pray that God will guide their path and their decisions within the Frisco ISD Board. As we close one school year and start summer vacation, I would like you to consider when the new school starts to bring more transparency, especially in elementary and middle schools, when it comes to the instructional materials, to the precise lessons, subject topics, homework, and anything else that our kids are taught in the classroom. I recommend that at the beginning of a semester or any school week, teachers inform parents and students what they will be taught ahead of time. When my daughter started her first grade at Sparks, I suggested this to the principal, and she took the feedback and did just that. Instead of telling us at the end of the week what our kids were taught, they change and they're informing us at the end of the week what they're going to be taught in the upcoming week. But even that, it's very summary, it's very brief. We don't know exactly the books, the topics, the lessons that are going to be taught. So please consider that we need to know at the beginning of the school year or the semester of the week what our kids are going to be taught in the upcoming weeks. Thank you.
Board will now move on to action items. First action item is consider and act on the reorganization of the Board of Trustees. I will open the floor